Ladies and gentlemen, now last week Kabam were absolutely harvesting L's, but it looks like they may be farming W's. And we have something here that looks like a pretty big W, but we can't 100% verify it is until it actually goes live, because there's so much nuance in the difficulty, the numbers, that we just have to see, we have to experience. So we're going to talk about this and break it down. However, there is one thing undisputably that is a huge W, and this is the Zola compensation for the current Titan crystal. Now, when the crystal went live yesterday, it did not have Zola in for the first hour or so when intended. And, you know, the tie-in, everybody's been saving up. A lot of people have been opening this, and they had no chance to get Zola. So what they're doing for those affected, and also for anybody that opens a Titan crystal between now and Monday, they're going to be giving out a compensation package of a selector. I assume this is probably going to come mid to late next week. And this selector allows you to either guarantee that you get a 7-star Zola, or you can roll again and just get another Titan crystal. So this is absolutely phenomenal compensation here. And I love what they've done with this one, is that they're not just focusing on those people in the short time frame that got impacted to kind of double dip on this one. They're giving out the compensation available to everybody as well. So they're not just, you know, rewarding the people that were there who were lucky enough to open the crystal early in a broken state, and they're just opening it up to the entire community. So I think this one is just a huge W. You know, if you were there, if you're going to open a crystal, you can guarantee that you're going to get Zola, or you can just take the big gamble. You know, if you're looking to go on the Titan crystal again, you know, maybe there's a chance that something you might not necessarily want, like another Falcon dupe potentially, or you could get that Carolina, you could get that Nico, you could get that Bastion. But I would say if you don't have Zola, I would really recommend just picking up one guaranteed copy, because yeah, you never know what you're going to get out of this Titan crystal. But again, if there's a lot of big wins, it's up to you how you do this. But I think this is a really good way to handle it. Fantastic compensation for this one. So yeah, I think that's a very, very huge W there. Now let's talk about the adaptive difficulty event quest immediate update. So the big changes are the difficulty adjustments. Classic and Elder will both be significantly reduced to better align with a more casual, sustainable monthly experience. So we talked about this in the initial review video. The health values are absolutely absurd. The attack was, you know, like triple what it was on previous Valiant difficulty. It is bonkers in terms of the scaling. So I'm curious to see what these numbers are. Again, they don't give any sort of ballpark range here. They don't provide examples. So it's kind of hard to, you know, give this significant praise at the moment, because we actually don't know exactly what the difference is. So I want to reserve my specific potential praise or criticism on this one for when it actually goes live. We get to play through and just experience it, and I think that's, you know, the right thing to do here. Now, we've also got reward retuning as well. So one thing they talk about is a goal is to ensure that adaptive difficulty event quests paired with the daily quest update deliver better value than before. Because for certain prestige levels, I believe it was if you were under like 25,000 prestige, you were getting less of certain rewards like tier 7 basic. So what they're doing with this one is they are rebalancing the rewards to make sure, and this is one thing that, you know, I stressed a lot in the videos, they're so backloaded in the current debut setup that you really need to clear everything to get anything meaningful. So they're going to be spreading out the rewards in a more meaningful manner, and also addressing some of the reduced payouts for some Valiant and Paragon players. So they should be kind of bumping up that minimum floor of rewards for various milestones. But again, until we see these numbers, until we see how it's distributed, until we see how it feels, it's very hard to give kind of specific praise or criticism to see if they've hit the mark on every point. And it's again, a lot to get right with this one, but I'm optimistic that, again, they've addressed it, they've acknowledged it, they said we're going to do this, so we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm looking forward to seeing, these updated numbers. Now, for the current event quest, this is going to be ending early next Monday on September 15th. And there are already players, the sweatiest of the sweats, that have gone through, spent a lot of time, a lot of resources in order to get that Elder difficulty 100% completion. So if you want to do that, if you want to, brace the pain and suffering and double dip the rewards, you have the option to do that, but you've got to do it in the next 5 days. And I will say very honestly, I think unless you are in that like giga sweaty profile, this probably is not worth the suffering for the mass majority of players out there. I think purely just from like a resource allocation standpoint, if you still have stuff to do, in Act 9, if you still got to do the Legendary Crucible, I would focus on those rather than the Adaptive Event Quest. Because, yeah, the Elder difficulty, especially some of the later chapters, has some very, very miserable fights. You can watch playthroughs from like MCOC Noob, but yeah, there are some really horrible fights toward the end of this one. But yeah, potentially maybe also evaluate the Classic difficulty, see if anything's worth doing for your progression level, just so you can dip partially in some rewards if you believe it is worth your time. But on Monday, again, we're going to get that reset, the updated difficulty, the updated rewards, so we're going to see how that feels to do, and I'm quite curious there, so really looking forward to next week. And there's also going to be a compensation consisting of energy refills, revives, and potions that's going to be distributed. Again, I don't know how wide this is going to be. There's very limited details on this one, but this is on top of a compensation package for the final Alliance War placements, and also the general connection instability issues that are still in progress as well. So we actually have 4 compensation packages incoming. We've got the Zola one with either a guaranteed 7-star Zola and a Titan Crystal. If you can open 1 Titan Crystal between now and Monday, we have the energy refills, the revives and potions. We have a general compensation package for connection instability, and we also have the final AW placements compensation there as well. So we've also got to talk about the closing paragraphs here, and this one is a bit of a change that I think the majority of the hardcore community might not appreciate, but is something that probably needs to exist if they are going down the route of this adaptive difficulty, which is exploring systemic changes to let players opt in to lower the difficulty, but also have lesser rewards as well. Because now that adaptive difficulty scales based off prestige, there may be certain events and timings where players, they get giga boosted in terms of prestige. It's like the gifting event, they get a load of new 7 stars, but maybe their skill level isn't at the level of their prestige, and they need to make the content a little bit easier. So I'm very curious to see what kind of changes and what this system looks like. There's a part of me, I never really like lowering the difficulty for lower rewards. I think that always feels a bit painful. However, in all fairness, they have had that option always with the event quest. If you, couldn't do uncollected, you were doing the difficulty below, doing like master or heroic. I want to say heroic was difficulty, but I think I'm thinking of World of Warcraft. But yeah, I really like that they've got an eye on this, because again, it's really important that the game is always accessible to new players, because the game dies when new people can't pick up this game and just have fun. That's super, super important. So I'm glad that is, within view there. And it's just like a closing paragraph as well. We said multiple times, and we're listening to your feedback, and we want to make the best game possible for all of you, open brackets, while also making a lot of money. Sometimes we miss the mark, but we're committed to making Event Quest enjoyable and rewarding for all. Keep sharing your feedback. It is invaluable. Thank you for your passion and dedication to the contest, the Marvel Contest of Champions team. Now, look, I think it's a good response. I like the communication. It has been very good since we had the release of this. I think Kabam very aware that they just did not hit the mark whatsoever with the debut of this. Specific praise on the adjustments is hard to give right now, because again, the content is not out. We can see the intention. We can see what they're going for. We will evaluate this Monday when we can play the new event quest, I think is the long and short of it. But I really love that Kabam are still trying and that their communication is good. I like in the live streams as well that You know, I always tune in now, I watch those, and they do hold themselves quite accountable for a lot of changes, and they're doing so much. You know, like the live streams, I always find I'm like overstimulated by the amount of information that they're sharing, because generally they're doing like, you know, the current month and like the next month and what we want to do in 3 months and what we want to do in like 6 months. You know, they've got kind of all this change and pipeline, but also recapping some of the stuff that they said they would do to hold themselves accountable. And I do think this year has been a bit of a mixed bag. I think there have been some wins. I've really enjoyed the mini Crucible. I love poker. I think Legendary Crucible, although, you know, it's something big to plan, I do like its celebration of all the Act 8 bosses, and I think it really highlights just how good a lot of that boss design was. Because, yeah, the bosses are really fun for the most part, and I think for a lot of the non-featured bosses as well, there are just so many different options and ways that you can approach those encounters. So there has been a lot of things that I do like this year as well, but I appreciate that Kabam are still making an effort to communicate. This for me is a very positive sign, because I have played a lot of mobile games. You know, if you followed me on this channel, on the anime channel as well, you'll know how many mobile games I've been through in the last decade, and it's always the biggest red flag when the communication just stops. It completely shuts down. They're very dismissive of the player base. Major things are happening, and the company is just completely silent and just not willing to give any sort of ground on anything. And that's just not the case with Marvel Contest of Champions currently. They're still here. They're still trying. They do make regular mistakes, you know? It is like supporting your home team. If you're an experienced player, right, if you have been playing this game for the last decade, it's like your local town team, right? You have this fondness, this love, this history. You want to see the game succeed. You want to see it do well, because you know at its best, Marvel Contest of Champions is like really something special. Like, there's a reason this game has been going over for a decade, but it's like there's so many caveats, right? There's content that comes out that sucks. There's new champions that come out and suck, and sometimes it is frustrating, because you're like, you play something and you're like, why does this exist? And it just, as somebody that has been playing the game, it's frustrating that stuff like that, you know, it gets past the line, because it's like, you know, you've got your home team's Marvel Contest of Champions, you got this love, you got this history, and you show up to the game, and like half the time they just bang it in the own goal, man, and you're like, oh my god, it doesn't feel good. But you know, they get these wins occasionally. There are these good moments, these great characters, and that's what keeps a lot of us just, you know, coming back to this game. Yeah, my personal just love for Carolina at the moment, and just playing that character, she's just phenomenal, so much fun. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching this summary. I think we're going to see next Monday how this stuff shakes out, but also let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I thought this was a good response. I thought pretty much the majority of things that I wanted personally have been addressed. The only thing was the skip to Elder difficulty, but I can concede that if A, the rewards are getting buffed, and B, Classic isn't really annoying to do an initial completion for as well. So yeah, I'm curious to see, you know, how that lands next Monday. I think it's going to be certainly a big day for Kabam, and I hope that they have got it right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for watching. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.